Hi, and welcome to MUATV.com. This is Who Is. I'm your host, Lloyd Buckley. We are here this afternoon with Emmy Award-winning Art Harding, as well as proud inventor of the Art Harding Instant Facelift and Neck Lift. Art, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're an established player in the makeup industry. Where did you get your start?
I got my start. Well, it's kind of a complicated, it's a longer story. I always wanted to be an actor, and it wasn't happening. But I've always been a movie fan, a fan of the business, and it goes way, way back. And I was a big fan of the Frankenstein movies, the old Mummy, werewolf movies, and
for some of our younger audience,
yeah.
what decade is that?
That actually goes
50s?
That actually goes back to the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and even 60s, depending on what how advanced they got. Anywho, I was always a fan, and my acting career was not going very well. And I now am married, and I have a 6-year-old son. I have a baby on the way, and I see an ad, and it says, "Be a makeup artist," and that was Joe Blasco's first ad, I think, that he had running in a newspaper. And I was always looking for something to do, and I would get offers for jobs, and I would always say to myself, do I want to be doing that particular job in 10 years? And when I saw that ad, it says, do you want to be doing makeup in 10 years? And I thought to myself, wow, what a great way to make a living. And I was always a fan of makeup anyway, in a sense, but I thought I would be doing that kind of makeup, the monster makeups and stuff like that, and the special effects. It didn't happen because I became more of a beauty makeup artist and a straight makeup artist, and I've been very successful doing so.
So what was the appeal exactly for you to get into makeup? It wasn't just the job.
Well, no, it was about being a part of the business.
Okay.
I was always a fan of the business. I loved everything about it. I knew every show that was on TV. I knew every actor that was in the business. I mean, that was just a little thing that I had going, you know? And so that's kind of, when I saw that ad, I thought to myself, wow. So I borrowed some money, you know, and I signed up. And
now you signed up at the Joe Blasco School of Makeup here in Hollywood?
Right here in Hollywood, yeah.
And you were Joe's second class, graduated second class, right?
Yeah.
What was the school like back then?
It was, I think we had 15 or 16 students, and Joe basically taught it. It was all done in a little makeup room on Sunset Boulevard, and we went through all the different aspects of makeup. And the next thing you know, I graduated, I think, number one. I didn't think. I graduated number one in the class. And
congratulations.
And thank you. And Joe handed me a certificate saying I was the number one student.
Cool.
And from there, it just, it's been really a wonderful journey, and it's been so easy. I mean, things, you know, everywhere I went, people liked my work, people liked me, and everything just led, you know, one job just led to another job, and it's been great. I'm very happy, you know.
Now, when you said you studied the different aspects of makeup, this is in the late 1970s.
Yeah.
What were those aspects of makeup? Because I'm wondering if, you know, things must have changed and evolved.
Well, as far as the makeup, the makeups were evolving in the sense of what kind of cameras we were doing makeups for. Mm-hmm. You know, like, and at that particular time there was a transition going where the cameras were getting very detailed, and you could actually, whatever you were doing, you actually saw that. Whereas before, because of the light, makeup had to be a lot heavier, sometimes even an odd color to make it look right. Whereas when I got into the business, the cameras were more sophisticated, so the makeups had to look a lot nicer and cleaner, and that's what I noticed. And again, as far as the special effects, I mean, we have just come so far. Mm-hmm. So far. I mean, the stuff that I see now that these makeup artists are doing, and I got to say something else. Some of the people who you are interviewing for this segment, for these shows, mm-hmm. they're terrific makeup artists. I mean, amazing makeup artists. And I got to tell you something. I am really honored that I'm being even put in the same category with these guys, that I'm being asked, you know, about my career when these guys are being, because I just find them so heads and shoulders about where I am at right now.
That's very nice of you to say. We're very proud and happy to have you on as well.
Thank you so much, and thank Joe for allowing me to be here.
So you graduated Joe Blasco School of Makeup. Mm-hmm. How did you approach getting work? What can you tell our young listeners a good way to go about getting work?
Well, here's what happened. After I graduated, I was with 16 about 15 or 16 other makeup artists, and we all, you develop a little clique. So I had my handful of people who I was in class with, and we all started trying to help each other out. We would start looking around, like department stores in town were having like fashion shows, and they were just using local people to be the model for whatever they were selling, and we would offer our services. Because the whole idea of being a makeup artist is to do makeup on strangers, people you have never seen before, you might never see again.
Why is that?
Well, because that's very intimidating. Because you have the one shot to make an impression. So the more times you make up a stranger and be able to look at their face and know exactly what you have to do without having to go, be nervous about it. Because now anybody can sit in my chair and I could be talking to them about whatever, and I've already figured out exactly what I have to do for them. And that comes through just doing strangers and doing faces over and over and over. And because, when you first started off doing makeup, you're doing your classmates who you already know, you're doing your friends, your relatives and stuff like that. So you already know them. Yeah. And they're a little sympathetic about, you're struggling. But when you do a stranger, they don't want to hear, they don't want to feel, they want to know that you're going to do a good job.
They want the results,
because
they don't care.
Once I graduated from school, I'm a makeup artist. So I had to, I had to show it, that what I could do. And so what we'd all do, we'd call each other, hey, I heard that they're looking for makeup artists over here, they're looking for makeup artists over there, and they weren't union jobs, so they weren't paying very much. But then some of the teachers that were teaching at Joe's were doing non-union things, and they would call some of the students, and I would get calls from them. One thing led to another. Next thing you know, a friend of my wife's was working over at ABC Studios, and they had just had a strike, and they had lost a whole staff of makeup artists. So, and it was a TV studio where you can. This was like in 1977. Okay. And so they called me over, so I met the head makeup artist over at ABC Studios. His name was Rudy Horvatich, a very good friend of Joe Blasco's, and he interviewed me and started putting me to work, and everywhere I went, I felt, like I said, and again, I'm not bragging, it just seemed like it was so easy. And the response I was getting was always so positive. I would call my wife, and she said, how's work today? Because we're both, new to this field of the entertainment, working on celebrities. And I would just say, it was great. It was great. I had a great time. They loved what I did. They love what I did. Can I tell you one story about Welcome Back, Kotter, the very first show I did? Okay. So I'm doing Welcome Back, Kotter, the very first episode of the last season. Okay, and again, they had lost all their makeup artists, so I took over the show. And I'm making people up, and so now we're breaking for lunch, and I'm in the commissary, and I see the actors who I was doing makeup on, right?
Any notable actors?
Oh, the Sweat Hogs. Not John at the time, because I used to do John on the show, but I didn't do it that particular day, but I did the other guys, right? And the other classmates and other people who were the guest stars. And anyway, so I called my wife, and she said, how's the show going? I'm working on Welcome Back, Kotter. I'm just this guy. Now I'm taking over a show like that, right? And I said, it's going great. She goes, oh, that's great. You must be really proud. I go, yeah, it's going really, really great. And she goes, I said, Sam, they're making a really big deal about my makeup. I mean, they're really making a big deal about my makeup. And she said, well, why do you sound puzzled? I said, because they're just sweat hogs. For those who remember the show, they were just sweat hog guys. And they made such a big, because evidently the impact that I made, the makeup was, they liked how clean the makeup was, how smooth it was, how it wasn't overbearing. And I guess prior to that, either the camera had changed or something had changed, but I just remember that we got to keep this guy. We got to keep this guy on the show. And so I ended the season. From there, I went on to other shows, and I was just getting that kind of response. Right. And again, I don't know what it was that I was doing. I just know that if I liked it, I was the camera. I was the last line.
So you had a lot of autonomy, essentially.
Autonomy, that's a big word.
You got to pick and choose the products. It was your eye that was calling the shots, and not, more so than the producers even?
Well, again, the producers never made a big deal of, again, that's another thing I got to say. I never got a lot of makeup notes. It's okay, that's great, let's shoot it, And again, a lot of times I would go on shows and thinking I was going to be meeting a lot of problems. The makeup looks great, let's shoot it, boom. And again, I don't know what it was. All I know is that I I enjoyed what I did. I found it, in a lot of cases, very easy. Not every job. There were some jobs where people were just really difficult to work with, or I found myself struggling because I couldn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. When I saw a person sitting there and making them up, and I had a vision what I wanted to do, and the tools weren't working, something wasn't working. But across the board, most of the time, I was very happy with the end results of what I was doing. So
that's great. Well, Art, we got to cut to commercial right now.
Okay.
We'll be back. We're here on Who Is with Art Harding. I'm your host, Lloyd Buckley. Stay tuned. Hi, and welcome back to Who Is. We're here with Art Harding. I'm your host, Lloyd Buckley. Art, I'm trying to figure out who hires you. As actors have auditions with casting directors, and the casting directors cast the actors. As a makeup artist, who are you looking to impress?
Again, it's not just always one person. Depending on the situation, I've never got a job off my resume. I've never gotten a job off my resume, even though my resume...
That Emmy doesn't help you?
No, because most of the jobs I've got has been from referral, or if I have a talent that I'm going in with.
Are these referrals like principal actors?
Yeah,
or
or other producers that I've worked with. Say, when a new show comes up, and I'll get a call, and they'll say, you were recommended by such and such, and you were recommended by such and such.
Do fellow makeup artists ever recommend you?
Oh yes. Right,
so
okay, say for instance, say when years ago when Joe Blasco was actually doing makeup, when he was actually a working makeup artist. Say a job comes up, but he's got a conflict of interest, right? And he can't do it. He'll say, call Art Harding, and I'll come in. I'll get the job that way, and vice versa. There are a lot of times where I department headed for years, and next thing you know, a person who might have been my third makeup artist is now a department head somewhere else, and he's hired me to come and help him on that show. So as far as getting jobs, it's always different. A lot of times I've gone and interviewed for a job, and I've got my jobs that way. I'll get a call, your name was recommended by such and such. We would like you to come and interview for a new show we're doing. I go in the interview, or sometimes I just got the job. I don't, excuse me, we're doing a makeup art. We'd like you to come and do the show for us, And a lot of it is, I would say 90%, 95% of it's just referral. Yeah.
Referral. So for the young makeup artists, network with your fellow makeup artists.
Exactly.
Get to know on set, get to know the actors, get to know the producers.
Yeah. And also, again, because it's like a lot of the stuff when you go on a show, you always are trying to show your best face, and always do that. One of the things when I've given lectures on, how to conduct yourself in the business, don't bring your personal problems to work. Don't create a negative atmosphere. Have fun. Always do a good job. Show that you have a concern for the talent, and that you're not nervous about how they look. And I would try to always do that. I don't know, it just came naturally for me. But so that when a makeup artist is needed on a show, they're going to say, "Oh, Art Harding, yeah, he's good to be working. He's a good person to work with." Even though I'm not heading it, bring me in. Or if I'm heading a show and names come up, "Oh yeah, I love that person. He's a good worker and he's great around the room." You want to create that atmosphere, and that kind of stuff will keep you working. If you have a reputation for, there's so many people who can do the job. There are so many makeup artists that are terrific and they can do the job, but their personalities, leave the room in a very negative way. And some people just don't like that atmosphere in a makeup room,
Sure.
And whereas some people who aren't as good a makeup artists, but they have such a pleasant,
personality.
They'll work them in. They'll just work them in. There are people who have been brought on shows and they'll just say, we just need an extra body. But that person's such a nice person to be around, let's bring that person in, as opposed to somebody who's better, but they just can't stand to be, So that's I hope that's answering some of your questions.
No, that's
because
that's
how it works, And again, I've never gotten a job off of my resume, and I used to get real concerned about my resume, and a lot of times I'll go off and do a show, and I'll be making people up, and I'll be making, say, someone up who is the third person on the call sheet, third person on this, here's the star, here's the second star, and there's a person down here, and say I happen to make that person up, and they like what I did. They say, do you have a card? Mm-hmm. So I give them my business card. A couple of months later, all of a sudden that person's the lead on a new show, and I got the call because they want me to make them up.
And how long were you in the industry before you got your union card?
I would say I was in the union probably...
in the industry?
In the industry, yeah. I'm sorry, that's okay. Yeah, and I was probably about 7, 8 years. So I was basically, when I was working over at ABC, where I really started and got my feet wet and learned my trade, was over at ABC Studios, where I worked shows like Welcome Back, Kotter. I did Barney Miller. I did Benson. I did General Hospital.
So you can work on major network television shows without being in the union?
I had to be part. The union that was that governed, that was ABC Studios at the time, was called NABIT. I forget what it stands for. Over at NBC.
Is that still around today?
No, it's not. Not for makeup artists. It is. It's still around, but not for makeup artists.
Okay.
Over at ABC, over at NBC and CBS, it was the IATSE, but it was a different category. You could join, but you really couldn't do the movies. You could do TV, but you couldn't do the movies.
I'm curious. So you've been around in the industry a long time. Mm-hmm. What aspects of the movie industry do you enjoy the most, and that kind of keep you inspired and keep you going? And which aspects do you not like that kind of, I don't know, bring you down?
There's so many things about the business that I like. The relationships I have made with my fellow makeup and hair people, the makeup, the relationships I've made with just members of the crew, and just people in the business itself. I love the work. I love being part of the business. I mean, I really, really enjoy being a part of the business. It's just nice, It's like it's so funny. It's like when people know that I'm a makeup artist, outside of the business, I've become an interesting person to them.
You like that? Good.
I try not to do it too much now because I don't. I've told us, I've done this. People, what do you think of my makeup? I don't want to go there with that. But when
why? Because you're afraid to insult them.
I don't care.
Okay.
In the sense that if they, because I've done so many people who would come to me and say, "Art, what can I do about my eyes?" And I would say, "Well, here's what you should do." And I said, "No, this is just my opinion as professional." And I tell them, right? So I would see them a few weeks later, and they back to the whatever they were doing, the blue eyeshadow, whatever, and that blended. I go, so I just don't. People are comfortable with what they're doing. So.
Right.
So anyway, as far as the work, what I enjoy about it, I've been able to travel a little bit, and again, it's a nice way to make a living. It's afforded me a great opportunity to because I worked in TV mostly doing sitcoms, as opposed to film. Because film, you have to leave your families. You're on the set for anywhere from 40 to 70, 80 hours a week. And I luckily got into sitcoms where I was able to be at home. And be at home dad with my wife and my kids, and I saw them play ball, I saw them grow up and stuff like that,
Home here in Los Angeles?
Here in Los Angeles, yeah. So that was, and again, I had, because when you do sitcoms, you're only basically there to do the show in front of the live audience. So even though they're working all week long, I would come in to do their makeup, so they were shooting in front of a live audience. So they would pay me pretty much for the whole week, and I had 2 shows, so I would get paid for 2 weeks to do 2 nights of work, and so I was around a lot. Those were the heydays. Those days are kind of gone.
That sounds like a good gig.
And so, I remember we had a nice house in Northridge. My wife and I both had nice cars, and so everything was really great. Now the thing I hate about this business, and I think I can speak for almost everybody here, is temporary.
Job insecurity. Don't know where your next paycheck's
no
coming.
matter who you are, no matter how great a makeup artist, you're always having to chase the bus. Because whatever you're on is going to end.
Right.
Okay, say like when I was doing Golden Girls and I was doing Empty Nest. Those were 2 top shows. This was a few years back, right? There were 2 top shows, and I was living high. They were paying me really, really good money, and it was over. And it ended. They both ended. And so now I have to go out myself back on the market again, and hopefully whatever show I go on next is going to have a good run like that. But they don't. I did a show, the John Larroquette show, a number of years ago, and it ran 4th season. And I had a great time. It was a great show. I thought it was a really good show, and I had a great relationship with John Larroquette. And that was back, I guess around 2000, 2001. I forget exactly, so, But I've done so many shows since then that ran 1 season. Since
2000 or just throughout your career?
No. I got to tell you, a lot of the makeup artists that my friends prior to that, because Barney Miller, when I was on that for 6 years, Golden Girls I was on for 8, it went for 6 years. It went for 8, but I was on it for 6 years. Mm-hmm. Benson went for 7 years. Empty Nest went for 7 years. All these shows were going forever. So I was always knowing I had a job.
Yeah, you were lucky.
I was very, and so again, lucky. And a lot of my friends were saying, "Art, you're so lucky. Every show I get on gets canceled." I thought, I have no control of that, So then after the John Larroquette show, I was getting called to do these different sitcoms, and I was having a great time. I enjoyed them, and I had good crews that I was working with. Boom, canceled. Next year, look for another job. I got another show. Do the show, meet new people, having a great time. Boom, it gets canceled. And then I have to now start going out of my comfort zone, which is sitcom, and I start doing shows like my friend calls me to work on a show called Jag. So now here I'm going from a guy who's working maybe a couple of days a week and getting paid all week, to now I'm getting a scale job, which is all right. There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm putting in 65 hours a week, and that was tough. And then I go find 2 more sitcoms, have a great time, great relationship, have fun. Boom, it's canceled. Go back to JAG, go 1 year, 65 hours a week. Then I go find 2 more.
And this is all in the last 5 years or so?
That was all in the last 5-6 years, yeah. And now I'm on a show called Bones, which I love dearly. And I think it's a really terrific show, and everybody there is really great to me, and I have a good time, but it's 65 hours a week. And that's for the younger bodies, So.
Well, you got it in you, right?
Oh, yeah, I can still do it. I just, it's really hurt my golf game, but I'm enjoying it,
Good. Yeah. Well, we got to take a break for a minute, but we'll come back. You're watching MUATV.com. This is Who Is. I'm your host, Lloyd Buckley. I'm here with Art Harding. Stay tuned for more makeup programming, and we'll be right back. Hi, and welcome back to MUATV.com. This is Who Is. I'm your host, Lloyd Buckley. We've been sitting and chatting with Art Harding, learning a lot of interesting things about the makeup industry, about your own personal career. I want to talk a little bit more about that. I know you've worked on some really, really successful shows, such as Home Improvement, Golden.
I did the pilot for Home Improvement.
Okay, well, the pilot's an important part
of the
show.
I did a lot of that show because during the hiatus period, the summers, when I was doing shows like Golden Girls and Empty Nest, we would have a season where we'd actually shoot it, and the season sometimes would go from like July to March, and then you were off between March and when the season started up again. So during that time, they would do a lot of pilots, idea shows, right? And then you would get a lot of calls for those, and then you would do the show, but then when the season comes back, you would go back to your original show, then somebody else would take over that show, So
you worked on the pilot of Home Improvement?
I did, yeah.
Good experience for you?
That was a great experience, yeah.
Were you working on Tim Allen and?
Did I do Tim Allen? I think I might have done Tim Allen, but
Jonathan Taylor Thomas. He was one of the sons. He was like a huge.
Oh yeah. I know, yeah.
Remember him?
Was
he cute?
All the kids were really young, but they were really young. And this is like their first time out of the chute with these kids, so they were everybody was really, really nice. But the only pilot I ever did a show for was Golden Girls. And I knew I just knew that this show was going to be big. I just knew it was going to be big. And or as other shows, you never know.
What gave you that sense?
It was just funny.
Yeah, the writing and then the actors.
The writing, the company that was doing it was with Thomas Harris, who I had done Benton, and they had done Soap prior to that. And I'd done a few other things for them, but there was just an energy about that show, and the four ladies were just so great. And you know, when I did the pilot, I know I wanted to see more of it. I wanted to see what else are they going to do. Whereas other shows I've been really excited about, boom, they're no longer around, you know. And other shows that I didn't think were going to make it, such as Home Improvement. I mean, there was nothing wrong with Home Improvement, but I didn't see it, you know, because it turned out to be a terrific show and
loved the show.
My family loved it.
Growing up.
My family loved it. All my kids loved it. My wife thought it was the funniest show ever. But I was just in a different place than myself, you know. I didn't get that time, but then I can look back on the show now and see that it's very good, you know. So
on the Golden Girls, were the women friends with each other offset?
You know, I got to tell you, I'm sure that they all had their own differences and stuff like that, but nobody walking on that set would ever know that there was ever a problem with those ladies. You know, because they were just professionals. And again, as far as, you know, to look back in my career to know, and I'll add something here because to let you know a little bit more about me. I'm a guy that I'm from Nicaragua, Central America. We came to the United States when I was a baby. I grew up in South Central. I was a guy who's an I was in the gangs and stuff like that. Did the whole thing, right? And I remember. It was like near the end of the Golden Girls run, and I'm thinking of who I was. You know, here I am doing the show, and what they used to do is that they would do a scene, right, and they would in front of the live audience. Then they would cut. The girls would go backstage, get for the next scene. Sometimes they'd have to change their wardrobe, change their hair, change their makeup, whatever, right? And then while they were backstage. They would run over their lines, you know, for the next scene coming up, you know, because they're going to do it in front of a live audience. So it was all live, right? And I remember that here are the most powerful women in the business at the time, you know, and they say, "Come on, girls, we got to go, let's go." They would call them out, right? And they would turn to me and they would say, "How do I look?" You know, I think, whoa, they're putting all that on me.
Right.
And it was a great feeling, and that's got to be.
You were in charge of their appearance.
I was in the show.
Who else are they going to ask?
Well, yeah. Well, I'm just saying, I wasn't the only makeup artist on the show. I mean, there was another guy, a gentleman by the name of Bob Germain, a terrific makeup artist, and there was other hair people too. But I just remember one time that Estelle Getty, not Estelle, but it was the B. Arthur. She had turned to me and she says, "Art, how do I look?" And I go, "You look great. Get out of here." You know. So that made me feel really good. You know, to know where I came from and what I was doing. It was kind of cool. Yeah.
And women of that magnitude, you know, really respected your work.
Yeah, I'm saying it was crazy.
And so you worked on Empty Nest?
Worked on Empty Nest, and I developed, Richard Mulligan, who was the father in that show. I had a wonderful relationship with him, and he was just the sweetest man. And he was a New Yorker guy, a New York actor, and he used to just tell great stories. And and it could just be an easy something story, you know. But he had the capacity to tell stories that would just lock me in, you know, and it would just make me laugh. And he was a great guy, and he worked so hard at his craft. When I would do his makeup, you know, and before the show, he would be like, he'd be doing the whole scene in his head, you know, and I'd be making him. I knew what he was doing, you know. He was working to make whatever he could do to make the scene better, you know. So
interesting.
Yeah, and Dinah Manoff and Christy McNichols. I have a nice relationship with David Leisure, who played the neighbor Charlie. You know, we play golf together still.
In Empty Nest? On Empty Nest?
Yeah. He's Joey Zuzu guy, you know.
Oh, he's a golfing buddy now?
Oh, he's a terrific golfer.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
And so you won your Emmy on Port Charles?
Port Charles. When I first started doing makeup, when I first got out of school, and I started my relationship at ABC Studios, I got put on General Hospital. And then, even though that was one show that I was doing, but they did a multiple of different shows. It was kind of the end of the heydays.
You mean spin-offs?
No. The spin-off came years later.
What do you mean a multiple of different shows?
I mean, in addition, we did the soap operas, we did variety shows, we did game shows, we did sitcoms, we did everything on that lot. back in the 70s and 80s. And like I say, even though I was doing General Hospital one day, the next day I'd be doing Benson, the next day I'd be doing Barney Miller, or then the Academy Awards would come along, then we'd all go do the Academy Award, the Emmys would come along. We were always doing things. It was a great time. Yeah. So, and then my relationship stayed with. But I was always working on General Hospital when other things weren't going on, because General Hospital goes all year long. They're not, a show that just shows during a certain time of the season. So anyway, then they had a spinoff, and that was back in the late 90s. And they asked me if I would take over that show. I said, yeah, I'll take over it, I won't have to be chasing the bus. It's going to go on forever, right? I don't have to worry about a show getting canceled and moving on. Anywho, I did it, and next thing you know, the year I did it, they were nominated for an Emmy, and I didn't know that I had even gotten an Emmy nomination, because what had happened, I went off to do other shows.
Who's doing your PR? When no one knows?
No, what I'm saying, they told me that I was on it, but because I had left the show to go do sitcoms again, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought my name was taken off.
Oh.
So next thing you know, my daughter is being nominated for. She was on General Hospital, and even though she wasn't nominated, they were being nominated. And I told her to give me a call when you know what's going on, because I didn't go to the award show. Mm-hmm. So I go, I'm sitting, and I get this phone call, and it's my daughter, and she said, "Dad, get down here as fast as you can." I said, "What happened? Did you win?" She goes, "No, you did." I said, "What do you mean? I didn't know if I was nominated. I thought they took my name off the list." They said, "No, you're on the list." So it turned out that they wanted to keep my name on the list because of my body of work with. I was told, I don't know if it's true or not, or the way I got the story was that they left my name on there because of my body of work with ABC, mm-hmm. over the years and stuff like that.
Did your daughter accept the award for you?
No, my boss,
did.
Donna Messina at the time. She's not Messina anymore, but anyway, she accepted it for me, and so. But it was a collect. It was a makeup. It was an award given to the department. Even though I was the department head of that show, I was in charge of it. There was other people who also got Emmys for that.
But is the Emmy yours?
Oh yes,
you have one of these.
It's got my name on it. So the year I won it and the whole thing, yeah. So I quickly got all dressed up. My wife and I ran down there, and I got a big round of applause at the bar. Because everybody was already in the bar when I got there.
Yeah.
So it was great.
You drinking martinis that night?
Oh yeah.
Are we missing a show? Any other popular shows you worked on?
Oh my God! I mean, so I did news radio.
With Phil Hartman?
No, I came on after Phil Hartman had died, and John Lovitz had taken his place. And the department, the makeup department, again, is how I got the job, right? A guy who I used to hire on shows that I was doing was the department head on news radio. His name is Bruce Grayson. Bruce Grayson went off to do, I believe the show was Just Shoot Me. Mm-hmm. I think, I could be wrong, but he went off to do his show, and he kind of felt that news radio was out of last year. So he said, "Art, could you take over the show for me?" Again, there was nobody. I had to account. I just got the job. So I came on, and I met John Lovitz, who had come in for the first time, and I took over the show, and it was great. I had a great time. It was one of the easiest shows I'd ever worked on because there was just. It was just about the characters. It was about the situations, and the actors were all great. David Foley, who was the head guy, I guess, of the newsroom there, he's one of the most confident, nicest actors I've ever met. And the ladies were all great, and it was just a good experience, So, but then it got canceled after 1 year for me.
Yeah, just 1 year.
Yeah. So.
I have a question about today's makeup, and how is special effects and computer technology affecting the makeup artists of today? Well,
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't affect me because I don't get involved with special effects. Even though I thought when I got into makeup that was going to be my niche. But I just know that they're doing a lot of that. What do they call that?
CGI.
CGI. Okay, yeah. They do a lot of that.
Right.
But. I don't know exactly where they're going to go because they've advanced it so much, but there's still, again, some of the makeup that's every now and then I get this book from the makeup, from my union. It's the Makeup Magazine. And there's these movies that are coming out. I can't think of their names, but they're showing all these special effects creatures that they're making, and the special, and the blood and guts that they're doing, and they're just really taking it to a whole new level. I mean, there's some of the stuff that they do right now. Again, when I first started, you could tell that it was makeup, even though it was terrific. It was terrific makeup. If you were to see something like say, ball caps. When I first started, everybody said, "Oh my God, that's what you mean by a ball cap? When you put this cap on a person's head to make them look bald-headed, even though they have hair underneath." Well, they always look great, but they always look like a ball cap. Whereas now they've got it so that you can't tell. They've got it so the way they paint them, the way they color them, the way they blend them, there's terrific how some of the stuff is going on right now. And again,
can you do like bald caps? That's not covering the whole entire head. I assume you can do something where you get like the little classic horseshoe bald pattern going, even for someone like with a full head of hair like you or I.
Again, it all depends on what kind of budget you have and how gifted the makeup artist is. But everything is you have to know the situation up front. Yeah, but they can do anything now. These guys today are so amazing. And again, if you look at some of the Fangoria magazine that you're talking about earlier, if you take a look at some of the stuff that they're doing, because they reveal a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. It's just terrific stuff. And I hope that never goes away. I hope they never really replace all that. Like the movie King Kong, or like some of these big special effects movies. My wife and I just saw 10,000 BC. Well, there was a lot of bigger things than that makeup artists are not doing that they used to do years ago, like the big creatures and the big, they're still creating them sculpture-wise, and they shoot them every now and then. But the actual filming seems to be the CGI, So, but there's still it's good stuff that they're doing, So I don't know where they're going. I really don't, because it doesn't affect me. But I do know there's a big concern about it.
There is.
Well, it's also a big concern because they're just not making them like they used to. And work is just getting scarce. And there's so many more makeup artists, and there's more outlets. But then the pay rate goes down. So they're not paying the way they used to. I mean, it is what it is. So I don't know if I'm saying anything that I shouldn't be saying, but I just know
we appreciate honesty.
Well, it is what it is. And it's an evolution. One of the things that I remember, and again, what you do, you don't complain about it, you adjust and you move on. When I first got into business, I started when I was 33 years old, and so I was already an old timer in the sense of my peers. A lot of the people.
When you graduated Joe Blasco?
I was 33 years old when I graduated. Like I said, I was already I had a 6-year-old son, and my daughter, who's a makeup artist and also won an Emmy. She hadn't even been born yet. And so when I got into the business, that I would go on these different shoots, I would run into old-time makeup artists, and they would complain a lot. They'd complain about these new makeup artists that were coming in, these ones that were graduating from Joe's class, these young artists that were coming in who I've been talking about since I've been sitting down here, right? And they were terrific. And they were always bitching about them, like this. And I kept to myself, wow, they're not growing with the times.
Right.
They're still trying to do makeup that might have worked on Joan Crawford back in the 40s, And I remember to myself and making a point that I would never complain about the business, because it's just an evolution. It just changes. So you have to change with it. You have to stay on top of how the makeups look. You have to stay on top of the products, and you have to, you just have to be current. And a lot of these old guys, when I first got into business, were not current anymore. They might have been great, 20 years ago, but now they grew old and expected to continue doing what they did 20 years ago and not improve with stuff. And I'm not saying it was across the board, because that's not, I don't mean to indicate that, but I just know that I kept running to these guys, and they would confide in me because they thought I was one of them. Because I was a guy, I was a little older than...
They didn't realize how modern you were.
Yeah, so I said, man, I don't want to be there when I'm, like I'm 64 now. I don't want to be telling them, be complaining about these young kids coming in today.
Right.
Because they're great. They care, they're artistic, and they're dealing with new products, they have new skills. So it's terrific, you know.
Well, Art, you mentioned you didn't get into the makeup industry until you were 33 years old. I was surprised to hear that because I thought this was kind of a lifelong thing of yours. But what was going on in your life before you got into makeup?
It was a lifelong thing in the sense that it was a dream that was always on the back burner. And I would never, because again, like I told you before, I grew up in South Central, and even though that might be just 30 miles away from Hollywood, it was a million miles away, and it just didn't exist. And so,
what kind of world were you living in?
Well, it was tough, you know. I don't have any horrific stories in a sense, but I would sometimes go to the park and get jumped and be around some very bad people, you know. But most of the guys liked me, and I had a good respect, you know. People took me in. If anybody,
did you have a nickname?
No. Because certain people like me, and my son knows what gang I was a member of, because I've shared my stories with him, right? So I'm in this movie, and I'm talking to these real gang members, and these are guys who are part of the drive-bys, who are the helicopters chase in the middle of the night, you know? These guys are bad, you know, and so, but they took a liking to me. So they would kick back in my trailer, you know, they'd all come and hang out, they just want to talk to me, you know, because, so my son asking me, did you tell him that you were? I said, no. He said, you didn't tell me you were a member of such and such a gang? I said, no, because those attitudes run deep. And
because they were the Mexican gang and you were from Nicaragua?
No. I was in the Mexican gang. Okay, and it's the gangs that I was with, mostly Mexican guys, you know, but they're still around. That gang is still around, and they're strong, and there's hardships, and there's, you know, that whole territorial thing. And so I didn't let them on that I was, you know, I asked them what their life was like, you know. And I remember one guy's name was Clown. He was the lead guy, and he had like a bullet still lodged in his arm. And we were sitting around talking. He was telling me, he said, Art, you know what's the greatest, and this is away from makeup, is this all right?
This is interesting.
Okay.
So, yes.
He was telling me, he said, Art, you know what's the greatest thing in the world? He says, it's better than sex, it's better than, he was going through the whole thing, right? And I go, okay, what? And he goes, running from the choppers. What? He goes, yeah, when the helicopters are flying and we're running around at night, those spotlights, he said, jumping over fence, he said, man, it's such a high.
Really?
And I go, oof. Man, they're in a different world. And I said, it's a different type of, different lifestyle. Yeah.
That's interesting. And you were also an actor, right?
Yeah. Well, put it this way. I was a guy who wanted to be an actor. Again, being a fan of the business, when I would see a movie like On the Waterfront, if anybody remembers that movie, I'm sure some people do, Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando was amazing. And I would watch that movie, and I was Marlon Brando for, I'm talking like this. And I was I wanted to be an actor. I envisioned myself doing scenes. But when I got into trying to become an actor, I had started The Family. And again, I was 23 years old when my family started, so I was
You got married at 24?
I think 23, 24, yeah, I forget exactly. But I was young. So and we started The Family relatively soon. And so I would go out on auditions. I had an agent and stuff like that. I got close to a couple of things, but nothing ever really materialized. But I couldn't be available, you know, because I had to start making money. So next thing you know, I got a job as a waiter. I was starting to work at clubs that were designed for actors. There was a club called the Daisy Club. I don't know if you remember that. It was a big club back in the late 60s, early 70s. In fact, that was the club where Sharon Tate and that whole group were in that night. And they all got killed by Charles Manson people, you know. So I waited on all those people, right? So I mean, it was like a focal point where everything was going on at that time. So I was in there hoping that I was going to make a contact to become an actor. A lot of things happened, but nothing really ever happened. So I start my family, and I had a different job every year. You know, I was working in the markets. I was doing roofs. I was selling vacations. You know, I was just doing a bunch of different things, but I was always working because I just had to make money, just to keep the family going, pay the bills. And then
Hustling,
you know.
In the legal sense.
In the legal sense, yeah. But anyway, so I was always looking through the paper to try to find something, you know, because I just thought I deserved to be doing something that was that was worthy of something, you know. And so I was always looking to the paper, and again, I was always being offered jobs. I even got offered a job to manage Colonel Sanders, you know, and that took 2 days, and I was out of there. And I got jobs to be a part of a company that was, and they were paying pretty good money, and they were having to refinish bathrooms, you know, bathtubs and sinks, right? They were paying pretty good, but I kept thinking, I don't want to be doing this 10 years from now, you know? And then I kept looking through them papers and looking through the papers, and there were the ad ads, you know? And then all of a sudden I see, be a makeup artist. And I start reading about it, and I go, be a makeup artist? And I thought to myself, wow, you know? That's not kind of, so I thought I would love to be doing that 10 years from now, right? So I gave them a call, came down to the school. My wife and I came down. And I met Joe. He was actually doing the interviewing of the people, and he gave me a couple of tests, and he said, "Okay, well, the class starts such and such a time," and says it'll be $2,000. I didn't have $2,000, so my wife had a very rich friend who I went to, and we borrowed the money. I said I would pay you back in X amount of time, and I borrowed the money, paid to Joe, and got my education, and.
So Joe Blasco pulled you out of your uncertainty.
Yeah.
And into a life
that you're still doing today. If his ad wasn't there, I don't know what I'd be doing. And I mean that. I have no idea. I mean, I know I'd be working. I know I'd be making money, but I would not. I wouldn't. I don't think my life would be as fulfilled as it has been in the last 31 years. And I'm like, again, I'm very proud of what I do. I'm very proud of the people who I call my friends in this business.
Is Joe Blasco one of those friends?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't see Joe because Joe never stops working. I mean, the guy just never stops working. I mean, he just loves to do his work. I mean, I enjoy my golf.
Right.
I love to go to work and have a great time. I love being with my family. Joe loves to work. I got to admire him for that, you know. I remember one time somebody said to me, and this is, I don't think Joe still has it, but somebody was saying something about Joe Blasco, and I remember saying, do you have a plane? And I go, the person goes, what? I said, do you have a plane? And he was another makeup artist. I said, Joe has a plane.
Joe has a plane?
At the time he did. I do remember, so I stand corrected if I'm wrong, Joe, because I remember you having a plane. Anyway, he was so successful, he'd been working so hard that he treated himself to a plane. I said, man, you got to give the guy props. As a makeup artist, making a living as a makeup artist and being able to buy a plane, I just thought that was terrific.
Well, Art, again, we got to cut to commercial.
Okay.
We'll be right back with MUATV.com. This is Who Is. I'm your host, Lloyd Buckley, here with Art Harding. Don't go away. Hi, and welcome back to MUATV.com. This is Who Is. I'm your host, Lloyd Buckley, sitting here with Art Harding, the proud inventor of Art Harding Instant Facelift and Neck Lift. Art, you want to show them this product?
What it is an apparatus that has been, it's an apparatus, I'll show you over here, that we use to try to take years off an actor's appearance. And what this does when the product is used in the right way, it's little pieces of tape that go on the side of the face, like here. Okay. These little pieces of tape go on the side of the face, the hair is parted, and then as you lift the skin, it recreates the cheekbones, it puts the jawline back in play, it helps smooth out the neck. And what it does is that you just clip it. I don't know if you can see this because I've got a black background here. It just clips on these holes and stuff like that, and it just holds it. And because of the tension, it's held in place with the tension.
So it lifts up the cheekbone, takes any like the mouth wrinkles away.
Yeah, it takes a little. We, as a makeup artist, you always hear about the nasolabial fold. It smooths that out. Again, and on some people, it's amazing. And what the way this product came around. When I first got into the business, there was a very archaic kind of way of creating this achievement, the results. And it usually required the service of not only the makeup artist, you needed a hairdresser because it would tie into the hair, and you needed the support of the talent. They would have to hold in place while you tied it all up together. Mm-hmm. And when I first got out of school and I got on my first movie, it was a movie called Good Luck, Miss Wyckoff, and there was an actress, very famous actress. She played Morticia. Her name was Carolyn Jones on the old series Addams Family. She played the lead. Anywho, she needed to be wearing this, and so I'm just trying to impress her with just the makeup, and I'm kind of nervous because I'm 5 minutes out of the shoot, and I have to start doing, in addition to the makeup, I have to put this thing on, right? Well, because of the hairdresser who was a little more experienced than I was, we were able to do it every single day that she worked. And then I remember after that, I went to another show. I forget who the actress was. I was confronted with this need again, make this person look younger. Because as people get older, the first signs that they show in aging is that they start to create shadows in this area here. Mm-hmm. It's not always about the wrinkle. It's just about certain things dropping. Young people have, like yourself, you have a nice, strong jawline. As you get older, this little shadow starts to create right here. Your cheekbones start to disappear. And what happens is when you put the tape and you lift the skin up, it all brings those elements back in play. And so what happened was now I was on shows where an actress would say, Art, do you know about these things that you could do? And so I started thinking to myself, well, there's got to be an easier way. There's just got to be an easier way. And then finally, because they wanted to have something on the weekends when they weren't working, and they wanted to be able to do it themselves. And so, I just kind of kept thinking about it. And so I kind of came out with nothing to what this is right now. It was a different type of. It was the end result was the same, but it was just different, and it was an idea that just kept evolving, and finally I came up with this particular concept.
When did this idea start? What were we talking about?
Well, I know it probably started in the mid 80s.
Mid 80s.
Yeah, but it wasn't something I spent a lot of time with because it didn't come up that often. Because the choices that were available were so weren't comfortable. When it did come up, I would give it more thought, and then one thing just led to another. And I came up with this one, and I showed it around to people, and next thing you know, I was asked to put it in a package and name it, and I did. And next thing you know, the word around town, this particular actress really, really liked it. She wanted to keep it for herself, so I would make one for her, and she would do it on herself, And next thing you know, I started doing it on other actresses. And I said, well, it's got to be a little simpler because it was harder to hide. This one here is so easy to hide, Mm-hmm. The other one dealt with a little comb that you stuck in the hair that had holes in it, and you hooked it, And so anyway, we evolved. And I remember one time that I was doing a show, and I was asked I had a makeup issue that was coming up that I had to try to solve. So I remember sometimes in the middle of the night when you're thinking, you can't go to sleep because you've got a problem. And I remember solving that problem for that particular show I was working on, but now I'm wide awake. So then I start thinking about my makeup, my facelift again, right? So I'm sitting in bed, I'm thinking, okay, how can I make this better? And so things start to come together. Okay, I can do this, I can do that. Boom, and I had the answer. And the answer basically is what I have. So.
And how many prototypes were there before you finally settled on this final product?
There's probably 4.
4?
Yeah, 4 of them, and it dealt with because there's so many aspects to it. Okay, now what I have here.
Looking to demonstrate?
I'll tell you what. I'll use the white one. It comes in light and dark because it hides in the hair. So what I'll do is I'll use the light one here because you can see it against my black shirt. Another good thing about my product is that you see these holes. When you put them on, you're right, and say you have in the tension, it's right here. A lot of times you can cut this off, but the ones that I had before, when the actress put it on first thing in the morning, and she's going to be working all day long, she had to have it on all day long, mm-hmm. or they'd have to do the whole hair all over again, right? Whereas this, and my wife does it periodically, she can just reach in and just loosen the tension, like if they're going out to lunch, if they want to. But this is pretty comfortable, so most people don't necessarily do that, but the option is there.
Right.
So.
But it is a comfortable piece to wear.
Well, I have not had anybody tell me otherwise. I mean, some people are just picky about a lot of things. I mean, you can't please everybody across the board. But all in all, I get such great responses at the makeup show last year. Not this year. I missed one this year. The one in Pasadena, where all the vendors.
Right. MUA-TV was there.
Okay, and all the vendors go there, right? So I'm there help pushing my product. I'm with one of my retailers. And so people I'm seeing makeup artists who I don't see anymore, because when you're on a show like I do right now called Bones, I'm gone, 65 hours a week, right? So I don't see the people like I used to. So I'm now catching up with old friends. And they'll say, hey, Art, how you doing? I say, I'm pretty. I'm here pushing my product. I go, Art, love your product. I'm using it on my show. I'm using it on this certain actress. So I had people telling me who they were doing my product on, and I'm going, wow, that's really great. I wish I could say it, my friends who were doing Dancing with the Stars, it was used on that show. I mean,
really?
they even gave me a little plug for it on their website. I can't tell you who wore it, but I just could say that somebody was wearing it on, and they were dancing and moving around, gyrating all over the place. It held up, and that person wound up taking it home with them. They wouldn't take it off.
So, cool. And this isn't just for actors or
no.
stars.
I have my own website. Yes.
What's your website?
It's Eris Collection, ERIScollection.com.
And
or you can go to instantfacelifts.com, which is probably a lot easier. Instantfacelifts, and that's plural.com.
And how much does it retail for?
They retail for $25, and it comes with the facelift, and it's already ready to use. It has a piece of tape on it. It comes with a neck lift, which sits back here. I have actresses that will buy the whole
and
kit
this is something
just to use.
That a man or a woman could do themselves.
Especially this one here. Especially because what happens, and you can see I'm up in age, but I don't get too vain about myself. But what this does is it helps pull this back and softens the neckline and smooths it out, and that comes ready to use. Okay. Then it comes with 2 packages of 10 each. So you have 22 pieces of tape for $25. It's just a little over $1 use.
So you get about 22 uses for $25.
Yeah, and then
you can do this in front of the mirror on your own. You don't need a team of people.
No, you don't need it. The whole idea.
How long does it take? About a minute? 2 minutes?
I had the video of my wife putting it on, and it takes about a minute and a half.
Minute and a half. And is this video on instantfacelifts.com?
It's on my website. Yeah, you just go to see video, how-to video, and you'll see how it works. It's terrific. And like I say, it's like it's a very simple thing to do. The results are amazing. On some people, it's really, really amazing. And I have customers from all over the world. They come to my website. They'll click in on, because I'm not computer savvy, but I understand this is what's going on since I've been selling it on the internet. I have to learn a little bit more. But
because, like you said earlier, you adjust to the changing times, right?
I'm adjusting to the times.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You're selling this online. That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. And so they'll click on, like if they want to hear about the product, right? And they'll click on instant facelift or temporary facelift, and they'll get a choice to come to my website. They go to my website and they buy it. Also, a number of years ago, I was doing a show called The Other Half. I don't know if you're familiar with that show. It was sort of the male version of The View.
Okay.
You had the 4 ladies. Well, this was The Other Half. It was 4 men. It was Mario Lopez, Danny Bonavucci, Dick Clark. Okay, it was an afternoon show. Okay?
Yeah.
Anyway, I was the makeup artist on that show, right? And one of my retailers had got an article on my facelift and put it in the Inquirer. So I was getting some nice sales from that. And next thing you know, one of my producers comes up and says, Art, are you the same Art Harding whose article was in the... I said, that's me. He said, well, we'd love to have you come on our show and demonstrate it. I said, well, I won't do that.
Why not?
Because if I put it on a person, then it defeats the whole idea. The whole idea of my facelift is that you can do it yourself. So what happened was that my wife went on the show. I was in the audience. They brought a consumer reporter, and they talked about it, and my wife basically put it on herself. She talked about it, and then Danny Bonavucci says, wait a minute, this is Art Harding? Is this our makeup artist? This is our makeup artist invented this. And he said, and they point to me in the audience, and I wave, Anyway, the response from that show, the producers told me afterwards, was the highest response of any show they'd ever had because of the facelift.
Wow.
Yeah, and my wife did it
and
live.
Did sales reflect the popularity?
Oh, yeah. and that for that one day, then they showed it, I think, 2 other times, and each time I knew the show had been on because my sales went up. Because then they would call and say, where can I find out more about this? They would give my website, And so it's been very, very, very good to me. It's just that I'm a one-man peddler, so I basically sell it to whoever comes and, I don't have a mass marketing program worked out because I don't know how to do that. So I'm learning how to do that.
But audience members can go to instantfacelifts.com. There's the video.
Yep, and the video, and also I sell brushes. I have my own line of brushes. I have my own line of makeup primer, which is a terrific thing. And so, yeah, check it out.
Well, this is very cool, very innovative, too.
It's really crazy because it's like there's that expression, necessity is the mother of invention. So anyway, there was a necessity for this. I mean, I hated doing that other type of facelift, and especially when I was getting called for because.
Wait, what are the other types of facelifts? What were you working with before you had?
It was basically the elastic string was tape, but it was all the stuff that went on up here.
And this was here, or this was somebody else's?
No, this was what I was trained on. When I went to Joe's, that's what Joe trained me on.
Oh, I see.
So when I went on to that movie to do, and I was, that was like. Again, it was a cumbersome. It was a very archaic kind of a way of pulling, tying, and stuff like that, and then putting the hair in, so, and then the person was stuck with it all day long, because they don't have time always to redo a hairdo and stuff like that, So I just kept, for some reason or other, the world that I was involved in, I kept getting confronted with this need. And then finally, when I came up with someone, a simple one, and I put it on an actress, she said, "Can I take this with me over the weekend?" I said, "Yeah, go ahead, take it." Because I was making more, in my kitchen. That's where I was going to the hardware store and just buying things. Bought some elastic string, tied it, got the tape. Use regular surgical tape. And I'd cut it a certain way, put it all together, and I'd go on the field and put it on people.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the word got out, and I started showing it around to my makeup friends. And there was this one makeup friend of mine who I said, "Hey, listen, I know you're pretty heavy with a lot of the more mature actresses and stuff like that." I said, "What do you think about this?" He just said, "It's art. It's so simple that it's genius, So, and I said,
it is.
And my wife did it on herself as a demonstration. I didn't put it on my wife. I said, "I just want you to watch this." So my wife, parted her hair, put it on, and then cut it. She goes, and the guy goes, "Wow, that was so simple," and the results are there. So.
Well, Art, thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, thank you. This is my pleasure.
This is the Art Harding's Instant Facelift and Neck Lift. It seems like a wonderful product. It's incredibly practical if you want.
It's very practical. When you consider one of the things that they said on that show, a facelift can cost anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000. Because one of the people who was doing the segment was a plastic surgeon. There was a panel of people there, and that's what he was charging. And she said, and the consumer reporter was saying, "What do you think about $25?" Women, a lot of makeup artists who are not in my business, but they're makeup artists who work on civilians. They do weddings, they do high school reunions. Just some of those things, just to kind of give yourself that little bit of extra punch to make yourself look better and feel better. And I got to say,
this would be practical for a high school reunion. You want to go to your 25th. You want to look good. You want to look younger than everybody else.
And I got to say, I have some of my customers that buy from my product online, and some of my retailers that wear it every single day. And I mean that. I don't understand it, but that's what the people are. I don't comb my hair every day. I put on a facelift, but they do, and it's terrific, and I'm glad they do. But
of course you are.
Yeah. So
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Who are some of your influences in makeup?
There's always an influence, and it could almost be every year in the 31 years that I've been in the business, because things are always changing in my business. Like I had mentioned earlier, you got to stay on top of it. I'm influenced by people like Patty Bunch, Phyllis Temple, Joe Blasco. I mean, there's just so many people that I work with, and when I see somebody perform a makeup and that person gets out of the chair, and I look at it, I'm influenced by how do they get there. Then the next time they're in the room and they're making that person, I'll kind of keep an eye and see how they did that liner. How can I achieve that liner easier? How can I get that blending? How can I get the smoothness of it? So I'm always being influenced, and especially with the styles. because the styles change all the time. When I first started doing makeup, I thought I was a cat's meow with some of the makeups I was doing because they were so current. And I just happened to, when I was called and I'm going through some of my old work, and I'm using colors that I would never use today. You know, or I would never go that heavy with an eye look for. You know, like when you do a show like a General Hospital, you have the luxury of going heavier. You know, so you have to.
Why is that?
Because it's more unreal than, say, if you're doing a show like Bones, which I do a show. I do a show called Bones, where the makeup it's about it's more real life kind of look. You know, they'll still look nice. They'll still have makeup and they'll have all the corrective things done. But like on a soap opera, you have the luxury of going that extra mile. Sometimes 2 miles, because the lashes on, the heavier eye makeup on, lined lips and stuff like that, more base and stuff like that. And
They want everyone to look beautiful as opposed to
sure,
natural.
because like if you were like doing a show like I remember, and again I'm not gonna, I'll just say it was a soap opera. I'm not saying what soap opera was, but there was an actress who was asleep, and the phone rang in the middle of the night. So she reached over, and she turned the light on, and she reached over and said hello, and she was at full-blown makeup. Now see. That's an influence that you have to like keep on top of how to make that person look. So it didn't look crazy at the time. Whereas, again, when I was over at General Hospital, there was a couple of makeup artists. Cindy Lee Rice was one. She's a beautiful blender. Donna Messina, the department head there, they blend so beautifully with their stuff. You know, I learned from them. I learned from again Patty Bunch, because everything about the makeup is you want the person to look good. Okay, I never want to have anybody say, "Oh my God, that's a beautiful makeup." I don't like to hear that. I like to have somebody say when they see my work, "Oh my God, you look absolutely beautiful." Mm-hmm. You go, "Oh my God, you look beautiful," and then they'll look at it and then they'll mention it to makeup, you know, and because I don't want them to see the makeup, I want them to think the person just looks that great, you know, and that comes with blending. That comes with making the right choices, not taking the makeup too far one way and taking it far enough that you have the results, you know. So.
If you would have a similar situation like you were talking about on that soap opera, in the middle of the night, phone call, full makeup, if you're doing Bones, how would Bones approach something like that?
They would never let it fly. They wouldn't let it fly. The person would wake up looking like they would wake up. I mean, and
does that take makeup to make them?
Yeah, because you know, if a person who's waking up in the middle of the night and answers the phone has blotches, you know, or uneven skin, what makeup really does, especially for film and stuff like that, is that you don't want people to, if the job is done right, you don't want to focus on the makeup. Like, it's really hard to look at a soap opera and not focus on the makeup because everybody's so over the top, you know. Whereas on a regular show, because people have flaws, they have discoloration, they have pimples, they have, you know, eyes might be not the same. So as the makeup artist, you want to have them, the people who are watching the show to be involved in the story. If their eyes start to roam and say, "Oh my God, look at that person's pimples," or "Look at that discoloration," then they've taken their focus off the show. You know, with the whole idea of the show was to follow the storyline. And so the actor has to feel comfortable that they're not looking at the flaws, they're just watching the performance. And as a makeup artist, that's what you're called to do. You know, take care of the flaws so that when people are watching the show, they're not looking at anything other than what they're supposed to be looking at. And with women, you can get away with a little bit more than with men because women are supposed to look pretty, especially when they're on TV or in the film. They're supposed to look pretty. So you want them to be looking beautiful, but at the same time, not focus in on the makeup as much as focusing on what the actress has been called to do. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's a fine line to pull sometimes. Some people just can't do it.
Right. So it's a subtle craft.
It's a subtle craft, yeah, and it's a craft. I mean, you've got to be able to pull that off, you know, because sometimes you know you have to go the distance, but at the same time not be too far where, you know, next thing you know, you're looking at this, you know. Even it could be a simple thing like sweating. You know, I was doing as a makeup artist, you have to like make sure they always look natural. Mm-hmm. You know, people, if I were talking to anybody and they're just sweating, you'd be focusing on their sweating, you wouldn't hear a thing they had to say.
Right.
There was a terrific comedic actress, his name was Dick Shawn, and I was doing a show with him, and he was sweating like a pig. And the producer and the director kept saying, cut, because we're shooting in front of a live audience, right? Well, he was so into his character He was so into his character, but he was sweating. He said, get away, I'm working, right? So I had to back off. The producer said, okay, back off, right? So the next day, because we were doing a show on a weekly basis, so I knew I was going to be dealing with them again next week. So I came in during the middle of the week, and I said, Dick, I want to just say I'm a big fan of yours. I appreciate all the effort that you are going through to create this role. I said, but you know what? Nobody's watching you. He goes, what? He goes, I said, nobody's watching you. They're watching you sweat. And you've gone through this whole bleeding process, this whole struggling to get to the character where you wanted to be, but they're not paying attention to you because they're watching you sweat. They're like, oh my God, look at that guy sweat. So all the things that you have said, they're not saying. So I said, let me do my job. I do not want to interfere with you. I don't want to take away from what you're doing. I want to go in there and do what I have to do so that people can enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah. Was he open to your
he was very grateful for that. I said, I'm not here to disrupt what you're doing, but if you're going to go through that, make sure people see it.
Right.
Yeah? So, no,
and it sounds like a good tactic, the way, I mean, you were polite, you were very respectful. And flattery, of course, always works.
I wasn't lying, though. I was a big fan of his. He was terrific. So.
Right. So, in your family, you're a first-generation makeup artist.
Yes,
you have a daughter who's also a makeup artist, right?
Yep.
How did that work out?
My daughter, when she was younger, when she would come to work with me, when I was doing the show, then she was just a little girl, and I would go on the set. I would let her hang out in the makeup, and I'd come back, and she'd have everything I had on my desk, on my table, or on her face. And it was very funny. Everybody thought it was very cute, But as she got older, she went off in different directions, and we never really talked about makeup. I would make her up for her prom, and I'd make up her friends at the prom, And then sometimes she would start doing it, but it was never really a thing. And when she got out of high school, she went up to Santa Barbara to go to college, but she wasn't really happy doing that. So she came back, and she was just sort of floundering. She was like 19 years old at the time. And I was working over at General Hospital quite a bit, and the department head there, her name is Donna, had 3 young boys, and my daughter was very good with little kids, and so she became their nanny. So she was doing a nanny business for a couple of months, and then one day Donna, who's a very close friend of mine, she says, "Art, I need you to teach Aaron how to do makeup." I go, "What?" I said, "I want you to teach Aaron how to do makeup." I said, "Why?" Because I want her to come and work for me. Because evidently she liked how she was working, how she dealt with the kids. She said, "I want her to come work with me." I said, "Well, how's that going to work out?" She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "How's that going to work out? You just bringing in my daughter. What's everybody else going to say?" She said, "I don't care what they say." So it's okay. I said, "But do me a favor. I'm not going to ask her. If you want her to be a makeup artist, you ask her." Because, at 19, 18, teenage girls and stuff like that, and we have a great relationship. But then she asked her, my daughter thought that was great. 2 things happened, she embraced it like crazy, and what's really nice, and for those who are fathers of teenage girls, this was really great because I became really important again.
Right.
Because when you're little, when they're little, you're very important. Then they go through that teenage where you just are a pain in the ass. Can I say that? Yeah,
You just did.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so what happens now is that I became important to her again.
Right.
And that was great because, and the only advice I ever really gave her, because I said it's like the makeups are always going to change. So you just, you're going to be changing with them. I said, but just take care of your name. Just because that's really all you have. That's one thing I've tried to do myself. Because when my name does come up, I think people have a good feeling about that. And I've gotten such great feedback from my daughter by the way she conducts herself in the makeup room, how she conducts herself as a professional, and the work that she does. We brought her on Bones last season. We were going through makeup artists for this one actress on the show. Nothing bad about the actress or the other makeup artist, but they would just keep moving on. And now that my daughter has 2 babies, she needs to have a schedule. She just can't sit there and wait for the phone to ring for jobs to come up. Whereas now I brought her in to make up this actress, and they got along great. And this girl wants Aaron to be there next season when we come back next month. And so now she's got a job where she knows what day she's going to be working, so she can make arrangements for her babies and then fulfill the need of that actress, help us out on the show, and it's great.
Are a lot of makeup artists accommodated like that? Because I'm sure everybody has families and other obligations.
Yeah.
Is your daughter lucky to have that?
Yes, she's very lucky because it's hard to get a job. It's hard for me to get a job. Like I said, the one thing I hate about this business is that no matter how successful I have been, and no matter how successful all the other makeup artists who've been interviewed, every show ends we have to go chase the bus again. You know, some of us are lucky that the bus always parks for us or stops for us, you know, and we get on board, you know. But I just know I remember, it really bothers me sometimes, and not bothers me, but it hurts me sometimes when I get phone calls from makeup artists who are really terrific makeup artists and great, and they're looking for work because their show ended. Now they didn't say there's nothing going on at that time, right? So they're looking for work, and I say, there's no reason why that makeup artist should be out of work, you know. But it is. So it's the nature of the beast. You either accept what it is and learn to work with it. And one of the things that was really great about this, okay, my facelift product, I'm bringing it up again. A lot of the makeup artists, and this was my plan B. And when I thought of when I came up with an idea, I kept thinking, this is, you know, no matter how successful I was as a makeup artist over the shows that I've done, I never thought it was permanent. I always knew in the back of my head, it's temporary. So you have to have something else to fall back on, okay? And so I tried to tell my friends over the years, I said, get something else going. I don't mean quit makeup, don't quit hair, you know, but don't just rely on it, because there's another person coming right behind you that's got, that's going to be the new kid on the block, you know, the big gun. Mm-hmm. So luckily for me, this has taken care of a lot of things for me, you know, and so that's what I'm, you know. So. Also, going back to my daughter, she's done so well that she has one of these sitting on her mantle at home.
Is that right? What did she win an Emmy for?
General Hospital.
General Hospital.
Yeah, she went over there, and she started off real slowly, and got her feet wet. And I told her, I said, my friend Donna, who's the department head, you know, when she was her very first day, I said, Erin, I know you're going to be kind of nervous because it's an intimidating business, because you're working with celebrities. There's a reputation that this business is very demanding, and there's a lot of bad people and very crazy egos and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I said, just understand something. This is Donna's livelihood. So she is not going to put you in a position where you're going to embarrass yourself, because if you embarrass yourself, you're going to embarrass her. So whatever she asks of you, she already knows that you can do it. So just remember that, you know. So she went in there. Donna, here's a little bit of string, here's a little more string, and she just kept feeding. Next thing you know, she's being requested by some of the actresses on the show, and you know, she picked up her craft really, really well. I'm really proud of her.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
So 2 Emmys in the family, huh?
That's crazy, isn't it?
And you have 3 boys?
Oh, I had one boy. I have one boy. I have 2 grandkids.
Okay.
Yeah,
wow. That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you got a big golf tournament coming up, right?
Yeah. The Art Harding golf tournament, which is just my friends and family and stuff like that. So, but I look forward to it every year.
You've been watching Who Is? I'm your host, Lloyd Buckley. I'm here with Art Harding. You're watching MUATV.com. Stay tuned for more makeup programming, and we'll see you next week.